Everything all right from my...
A very good afternoon to all present here. I, Dr. Pronima Bakchi, on behalf of Dr. Vishwanath Karad, MIT World Peace University, welcome each one of you to the second edition of INDCON, a revolutionary online conference between industry and academia to drive research and development policy reforms in India. This three-day virtual conference will have different sessions aligned with the theme of this year, which is building stronger research and development ecosystem, enabling Saksham Bharat Abhiyaan. I request my technical team to kindly relay a video on the theme of this event.
Becoming a global leader is a noble dream. What is our strength as India? It is knowledge. The strength of a nation in the digital age we find ourselves in is governed solely by its research and development index. The speed by which technology is accelerating has been unmatched since the dawn of humanity. India boasts of the largest manpower pool under the age of 30 in the world. Though we have potentially a gold mine of researchers with us, we barely produce any research. We have to import technology from nations like China. Our universities and our industry do not seem to share the deep connection that they do in countries like the US or China. That is why the IMC's Knowledge Committee, in association with MIT World Peace University, are hosting INDCON, a revolutionary online conference between industry and academia. The way for India to become a global leader lies in its repository of knowledge. INDCON is the way to do so.
INDCON 2020-2021 is organized by IMC Chamber of Commerce and Industry under the leadership of Shri Rajiv Poddar and Knowledge Committee Chairman Shri Rahul Karad. The Indian Merchants Chamber, established on 7 September 1907 in Mumbai, represents interests of Indian trade, commerce and industry. The IMC has played a significant role in consolidating Indian business interests and making the Indian economy self-reliant. The Center for Industry Academia Partnerships at MIT World Peace University has taken up the responsibility of organizing INDCON across 11 cities of India and will include 150 industry leaders as well as representatives of the government under the dynamic leadership of Mr. Praveen Patil, the CEO of CIAP, who is with us today, along with Dr. Prasad Khandekar, the chairman of the organizing committee. I gladly welcome you all to the second conclave of the series focusing on Delhi NCR North region. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce CIAP briefly. The Center for Industry Academia Partnerships was started with the intention to build collaborations with industry and academia to encourage the maximum potential and impact outcomes. The step taken is in the direction to develop innovative solutions through process-driven approach. It's indeed my privilege to introduce Mr. Praveen Patil, the CEO of Center for Academia Partnerships, who has been a pioneer in developing it and taking this initiative ahead by bringing a significant change within the university. After having a successful deliberation in the first series of the conclave, we are now heading towards the second session of day 3 of INDCON, which is on the theme Challenges and Opportunities in Setting Up Technology or Incubation Centers in Private Universities and Role of Industries and Government. I now request my technical team to kindly relay a video on the session theme.
In India, it is difficult for young entrepreneurs to achieve the support they require to contribute to the economy. To some extent, the Indian government has undertaken several initiatives to foster a culture of innovation and entrepreneurship in the country. In India, investments in R&D have been mainly driven by the central government, with the private sector and state governments found to be lagging. The government is encouraging investments in R&D in various ways. This includes a tax-friendly special economic zone policy for the next 20 years, incentives for R&D investments in technology, talent development and reskilling, encouraging funding for technology startups, easing the taxation regime for the digital economy, and promoting ease of doing business.
It's my honor to introduce the esteemed panel for this session. We have with us Dr. Jasvir Singh, Regulatory, Scientific and Government Affairs Leader from South Asia, DuPont Nutrition and Biosciences. Welcome, sir. We have Dr. Vikram Saraph, Group Director of Innovation and Entrepreneurship Development, Architect and Planner. Welcome, sir. We have Mr. Purshottam Darshankar of Digital Transformation and Innovation Persistent Systems. Welcome, sir. And we have Dr. Gautam Bapat, the head of the School of Management UG of MIT World Peace University, as the moderator of this session. Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
Before handing over this session, I would like to make an announcement to the audiences. If you have an important question, you may post it in the chat box or in the Q&A section. If time permits, we will definitely take it and redirect it to our panelists. I now hand over the session to our moderator. Over to you, Dr. Bapat.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Pranima. Indeed, a very important session, and we are really, I would say, fortunate to have Dr. Jasvir, Mr. Vikram, and Mr. Purshottam in this session. So I once again welcome all of you. Yes, indeed, the topic is very clear. The question that is posed by everyone, apparently, because being in academics, this question has always been coming to us, because students, they do come to us asking for that. They have some concept, they would like to elaborate it, they would like to take it forward, how exactly they materialize the concept, and there are so many questions. So yes, as I remember, one of the article of Financial Express said that, and even the Honorable Prime Minister of India said, I dream of a digital India where the world looks to India for the next innovation. But unfortunately, it seems that there needs to be a lot to be done if you really want to achieve this big dream. Yes, India is at the 48th position among 131 countries in the Global Innovation Index. The news is good, definitely, but is it really getting translated the way it is supposed to be? So there are so many questions. India is probably in a good shape right now. The domestic market scale is ranked third in the world. ICT services exports as proportion to the total trade, we are the number 1. Government's online services, we are ranked 9. Graduates in science and technology, we are ranked 12th. So the numbers are promising. But is it really a fact? Do they reflect the reality? And what exactly we need to do in order to bridge the industry-academia gap and boost the innovation in universities and colleges? So first, as the tradition of INDCON, first I would like to request each one of you for your opening remarks. First, which would be around 5 to 7 minutes. So first, I would like to request Dr. Jasvir if you would like to open the session with his opening remarks. Over to you, Dr. Jasvir.
Thanks, Gautam. Thanks a lot for this great opening segue session to the panel discussion. So now I come from an industry which is primarily food manufacturing, and my whole experience has been in this domain of food, or to some extent FMCG space. Now, when I look at my journey, and fortunately, because I come from science and research background, I did have a career which seemed to overlap between research, industry, and then an R&D, which is happening on both sides. So I have a little bit of exposure there, and some of these learnings that I would like to share. So fundamentally, I think when we look at the overall policy space on what needs to be done, I find that typically we are a little confused society in that context, that we don't understand that what is important for a particular sector or a particular space to grow. At times, it is what you do that makes the sector grow, but at many times, what you don't do is also equally responsible for helping that sector to grow. And you can see, uh, I think it was a quote as well as a book by Gurcharan Das sometime back uh, on looking at the growth of IT sector, and the famous phrase that came out of that India grows when government sleeps. So it is that what we need to really look at is that it is not government interventions which are required in every case. For sure, there are spaces where there are challenges that an individual government, individual industry sector, or academia alone will not be able to solve. Those are areas which are, say, cross-border trade and all those kind of things, where role of government is important, and rather very important. But then at many places, this age-old mindset of creating every regulatory framework which starts with that nobody shall do. And I mean, with that opening sentence itself, you have laid down the foundation of the intent behind that regulatory policy. I mean, rather than if you do a kind of survey on regulations across sectors, there are very few regulations that you will come across which say that this is what you can do. Most of them are nobody shall do, and then they goes on to list down things that you should not do. And that mindset, unfortunately, we have not been able to change. So that's, I think that's one big area which requires discussion, which requires a little bit of encouragement and pushing to the government, that you don't need to get into each and every sector and each and every space within that sector. Let things go unless there is a reason for you to really intervene. That's one. The second area where, because I'm putting my opening things around confusions only. The second area where I believe there's a lot of thought which is still required is to define innovation. I mean, what do we mean by innovation? And the challenge that I see is that to a large extent, our understanding of innovation is restricted to a product innovation. Whereas, in at least in my experience in this space, product innovation is probably the least of the priorities for an industry. Lot many industries that do have products, lot many academia have developed products, but they have not really reached the final endpoint for which they were developed, because that journey from a product to a success in the market requires much more than the product itself. And there you talk about innovations around delivery mechanisms, you talk about consumer communications, which is something which is completely lacking in our understanding of innovation, because you cannot take a product or an innovation to market if you are not able to convince the end user that this is something which is doing good to you. And that communication itself is almost absent in our discussions around innovation. So there are a lot of these challenges which are there, but at the same time, as a country, we do have a lot of strengths, a large pool of manpower being one of them, although quality of that manpower still remains something that we can build on and we can further develop, where I believe a lot of us have a role to play. So with this, I think we can move ahead a little bit.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Dr. Jasvir, for your opening remarks. And indeed, as you rightly said, that product or product innovation is just one way of looking at innovations. You raised some of the important questions. Other is the availability of huge manpower, but then discussion of quality of manpower and usability of that manpower right after the graduation or completing education always remains a question. Yes, indeed. Thank you very much for that opening remark, and with which I would like to move on to our next guest speaker in this session, Mr. Purshottam. If you would like to go ahead, sir. Over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Gautam. So firstly, I would like to thank the IMC Chamber of Commerce and Industry and MIT WP for giving this opportunity, especially the whole INDCON being driven by Dr. Patil sir and Dr. Khandekar sir. The videos that were showed both at INCON level and for specifically for this session were very apt, and I think it really captures the essence of this particular session. So as an opening remark, I just wanted to give a lay of land, the way we understand the technology or the innovation hub or the incubation center and all of those things. And then probably as we know, there are two sides to the coin. So there is a big opportunity there and there is also challenges. So yes, incubation center, innovation center, technology hub or startup community and whatever you call it as, it has really received a lot of attention in a recent past, not only in India but across the globe. And basically these hubs are allowing the budding entrepreneurs to convert their ideas into solution. But it's just not only the solution, as Mr. Jasvir also alluded to, it needs to be converted into a sustainable business, which is very important, right? So I think that is where we have seen a lot of participation from private players, public players, academia, who are also putting together the incubation center. It may be for a specific purpose. Probably it could be at a very regional level to address the local economy, or probably to address some of the specific technologies, or basically maybe a specific domain as well. So I must admit that this incubation and technology centers, they have contributed positively to the Indian economy, and they are fostering and supporting to create a best environment amongst the startup community and the ecosystem, right? And coming to the government, and I think they are contributing in a better way, and I think that there are a lot of initiatives that I can talk about. Again, from the academia, when they set up an incubation center, they offer a range of products and services, which is very critical for the early stage of the starters, because they cannot spend a lot of money in terms of running the complete show. So be it in terms of offering the office space or conference room, which are very important for whiteboarding and brainstorming sessions. The mentoring is required. Then there is administrative assistance which is required. Then again, you have a lot of legal and accounting advising, which is also very important aspect, as Jasvir also alluded to some of the regulatory norms and all of those things. And most importantly, the talent pool, right? So how do you get access to the talent pool? And that has been one of the challenge. If you look at the talent pool which is coming out of academia, bunch of they go to abroad for their pursuing their future studies and they settle there itself, right? The next aspiration for most of this talent pool is to be part of likes of Wipros, Infosys, Capgemini, and all of those things, and that is where the talent pool goes. And then whatever talent pool remains, then the startup community needs to rely on those talent pool. And again, as you just mentioned, there is a lot of gap between the industry and academia, so it's a big gap that we need to rely. And again, this handholding which is required for startup community is pretty good. It could range from anywhere from 1 year to 5 years if it has to really come out of the initial ideation. Then there has to be some angel investor to invest into that. Then there has to be series A, series B funding kind of thing. So it's a whole journey which may take anywhere between 1 to 5 years. So there are good things which I just wanted to talk about. So if we go with a local market, India has a huge potential with 1.3 billion population, and the spending pattern, especially of millennials, is very high. So even if you carve out a very niche product, again a low cost high impact solution, and again it need not be a product innovation, as Mr. Jasvir alluded to, right? So there is a huge market there, and again this market is very local also, based on the ethnicity, religion, culture that we have in India. There is a very local market, so you need not really run to tap the market somewhere else where you are sitting at one place. So that is again another one good area that I can talk about. So as I just mentioned, there are very good initiatives taken by government. I can talk about some of these initiatives, like we have SEZ, we have Science and Technology Park, we have AIC being driven by Niti Aayog. The government has opened up a lot of data for the people to really look at their socio-economic problems. So if you go to mydata.government, there is humongous amount of data that is available. So that is again a very good initiative. We have NPTEL Swayam kind of portal where there is a skill-based training that is being imparted by IITs, right? 7 IITs, they are contributing to this. So while these are all good initiatives, I think there is an awareness that needs to be there. People, I mean, even I see a lot of universities going for setting up incubation center. I think it should survive and thrive, not just as a PR initiative. They should go and inaugurate this incubation center. So I think what is required is that while it all be it under vice chancellor, I think you need a good champion who brings the business, brings good business and technical acumen to run this particular thing, and then only such programs will survive and thrive. So that is again one of the important point I would want to raise. So these are a few of the things which I wanted to allude to. Again, this is a high level view of what I think of, but again I think we can double click on certain areas as the discussion progresses. So yeah, these are quick thoughts from my side, Gautam.
Thank you very much, Purshottam ji. You also brought up many important points which I'm noting down right now, and going to ask you the same questions as we enter into the Q&A part. But because I'm going to adjust and heads up to Jasvir ji, I'm going to come back to him in the Q&A or discussion that he talked about the product innovation. Is it really time that we talk about the process innovation? Purshottam ji, I'm going to come back to you with the question that though there is industry academia gap in India, have you seen in your experience that the same is there in foreign countries? If not, what do they do differently? I'll come back to you in the Q&A part. Before I get there, I would like to reach out to Vikram ji. Vikram ji, I see a triangle in your window which indicates a network issue. So are you able to hear us? Vikram ji? That WebEx shows a triangle whenever it has a network connectivity issue. So Vikram ji, are you able to hear us?
Yes, I can hear you now. Can you hear me
okay,
now?
Great. So we would like to request you to go for your opening remarks before we actually start with the discussion. Over to you, sir.
I think I'm my connection must have.
So you can switch off your video because I think you have a bandwidth issue. You can switch off your video so that we at least be able to hear you properly. Because right now, okay, I think we lost him again. Can you hear us?
Yes. Um, Thank you, Gautam, for inviting me. Dr. Gautam, am I audible to you now?
Hear him, or none of us is hearing him?
No, I think we lost him, or I think the voice is very feeble. I think it's
Yeah. Vikramji, can you please repeat, because I think we lost you.
Am I audible now?
Yeah, now it's good. Please go ahead.
Okay. I just sorry for that. I just got bumped out of the meeting. I'm not sure why. So thank you, IMC and MIT WPU for putting up this session. I think it's a great topic to explore and to talk about, and to look at certain aspects, or the experiential, the challenges that we are facing in overcoming these inter um, entity kind of government, industry, academia relationship, and how we contribute to each other. So um, there are a few things that I would like to briefly touch upon right now. So one is that we've seen that innovation rarely happens in the labs in the universities. It's mostly at the field, on the ground. There are so many cities put together to come up with new inventions, new research. Unfortunately, what we've also seen is a significant chunk of that research is not solving a real life problem. Now, that's one point that we always emphasize on. What happens is, we don't see any impact coming out of these efforts. So we have, from what I understand and my knowledge goes, there must be about 40 to 50 government supported or government established good quality incubators only in the state of Maharashtra. Um, there are many more across the country. Uh, in fact, the state of Maharashtra itself has almost two or three dozen good quality high-end universities also. But we fail to see the impact that is coming out of it. So we still have those same problems. We still have the same societal challenges. We still have those same technological backwardness in certain fields of science and industry that we have faced for the last, I don't know how many decades. So that is one thing, is that this kind of research or development, or the invention that is money has been spent on in the universities, or some of the R&D centers, academic R&D centers, is probably not being directed by the social reasons, or the industry demands. So that is one disconnect that we have. But we have a brilliant opportunity there, because the funding is in place, the ecosystem is in place. We just need to channelize it better. The other thing that I want to add here is a very strong leadership. As I would like to, touch upon what Dr. Purshottam also said earlier. Um, every incubator that has been set up, since we work very closely with other universities and other incubators as well, and I have also personally set up a few incubators myself with other private organizations. What what we have seen is that one single driving force is that leader, is that leadership that drives that effort, because then that makes a difference. In many cases, like historically we've seen, um, when this the incubation drive started in India, mostly we had professors coming on board as incubation managers. Now that's a great thing, but they definitely lack the industry perspective or the business perspective or the the socioeconomic dynamics point of view or the impact perspective. So these are the cases that need to be, these are the aspects that need to be added onto the R&D efforts, and hence that leadership, that kind of encompasses all of these aspects into one, and has got that vision for what the future might be or what these emerging technologies require. What are the skill sets that are required? That is important. So that visionary leadership is critical for each and every incubator to be successful, and not just it's become a tick box that every university must have an incubator. So it also needs a visionary leadership. The other aspect, the third point that I also want to put here is that when we talk about impact, there are certain things that the outcome has to be felt by the people, right? And that is what is missing. So there is a big disconnect. So, and industries are a great way of looking at impact, because they are a medium of delivering that impact. Because if there was no impact, the industry's efforts would not be required and they would be out of business, right? So such things don't happen at incubators. They happen with the startups that are incubated at the incubators, but they don't happen at the incubator. So if I say that the incubator must focus on impact funding or impact oriented projects, that is absolutely critical, because that's the need of the hour. And moving forward, even the industries would need to showcase their impacts, like social impact or environmental impact, or impact on the livelihoods, and so on and so forth. Just before I stop, I would like to put one more point, is that in doing all this, we require a very aptly skilled manpower. Now we know we've got a lot of universities, we've got a lot of institutions. We are one of the youngest countries in the world. We've got so many people, so many able, capable, employable people. Unfortunately, they are not all of them are suitably qualified to be absorbed directly by the industry. So that's a big challenge that needs to be also looked at. And over the years we have also evolved to that stage where we have started doing advanced skill training as part of our incubation facility also. So it's not just creating the job creators, but also enhancing the employability of these job seekers also. So the whole thing goes together, because that innovation has to be supported by the skills to deliver that impact. So I think that's to me this last point would be a very critical one, and I think I'll end my brief over there.
Well, thank you very much, Vikramji. Actually gave me so many points to take this discussion forward. So as I said, I'm going to come back to you with the questions like, as you said, that there is a gap between the R&D that happens in academia. So the R&D in academics and R&D in industry. So if there are so different and if there is so much of gap, because industries also have R&D divisions, so can there be really some overlap, some handshaking in between them? So I'm going to come back with this question to you. And also, you talked about aptly skilled manpower. So that is something also the point of discussion is. So thank you very much, Dr. Jasvir, so Vikram and Purshottam ji for your opening remarks. And now the time is there with me to take this discussion forward with some of the questions. So first question I would like to open this discussion with is the what do you see as the current challenges to address the building in building the collaboration between industry and academia? Well, see, if we see, nobody has stopped us. we as universities keep approaching industries for placements and research projects and so many things. Industries are also interested in innovation, product development, process research, and so many things. But on both sides, you keep talking about it. So who's stopping us? What is the barrier? Why still there is no good connect or overlap in true sense between industry and academia? So what are your views? It's an open discussion, so no, I'm not going to take any names. So you can jump in if you have any good point in this context. Jasvir ji, you would like to start? You would like to open?
Okay, sure. So, having worked in academia as part of my research life and then worked in industry, I see cultural disconnect as one of the big challenges there, which is there for us to overcome. And when I say cultural disconnect, there are many layers to that cultural thing that I'm talking about. So, one aspect is that both sides of this equation, industry as well as people in academia, they come with a very, very different mindset. Now, for an academia or an academic researcher, it is a pursuit of knowledge. And that pursuit of knowledge for the knowledge sake itself is a good enough process as well as a return for him or her. Whereas for people in industry, they need to end the process at something which gives a tangible benefit to the industry. So the end goal of these two important stakeholders at times do not match or are not. I mean, one is an absolute match. The other thing is that both these stakeholders are not even able to appreciate the end goals which the other stakeholder has. And because of that lack of appreciation, uh, there is a sort of disrespect, and if not disrespect, at least there's a lack of respect for the end goal for which the other stakeholder is working. And now if you have two parties in an agreement who at the very psychological core of the things do not trust in each other's end goals and do not respect each other's way of working, the objectives of working, then you are bound to have issues with making that partnership go through and yield something which is potentially good for both. That's one. The other part is that this whole notion that industry operates only for the purpose of money and academics work only for the purpose of working. This notion on both sides also creates a sense of distrust among these two stakeholders. So at times you find that academia or the people from academia, they simply do not want to get into this sort of a collaborative arrangement because they believe that industry is doing something wrong. I mean, generating wealth itself has been an idea which is not very well respected in India, in our society. Generating wealth is always associated with a potential issue of something
True.
which is not something worth respecting in
Generating
our.
wealth is always seen as a sign of greediness or
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
Is
So as a society, we have not started respecting the idea of generating wealth. And that idea is all pervasive. and that's there in these kind of collaborations as well. And the other part which is there is that today we are living in a globalized world. Now, I mean, I work in a multinational organization. So if we have a research project where we are looking for a collaboration with an academic partner, now I do not look at India alone as a potential space where I need to look for partners. I look all across the world. So in that sense, the academia for India is not only competing with other Indian universities or other Indian institutes, they are competing with global institutes. And in that race, there are huge gaps that Indian ecosystem faces. And I mean, a very simple thing that some of these great institutes that we have, institutes which are national institutes in certain areas, and they have some of the fantastic scientists as well. Those scientists can compete with anyone from the globe. But you go to those institutes and you won't even find a clean toilet. Now, when
True.
a global team comes with me and we go to visit that institute, more than the people, they are appalled by the infrastructure that that institute has to showcase.
True.
I mean,
Dr.
this is a very basic thing that that acts as a big barrier. I mean,
True.
when they see that infrastructure, their ability to believe in the competency of that place goes down drastically.
Drastically.
Over to you.
I understand. I would not like to take the name, but the same experience I have had many times in many institutions. But Purushottamji, I would like to take the same thread to you. As Dr. Vikramji, you would like to say something? Please go ahead.
No, let me, okay, let me, continue what Jasvir sir said. Yeah, so again, I'll give my perspective of IT industry. Again, IT industry has been a significant contributor to Indian GDP. Almost 10% of it is covered by IT industry. So you need to look at, again, if you look at academia and industry relationship, it is like a relationship of a producer and consumer, right? And if you look at the IT industry, it is evolving over a period of time. The earlier days of IT industry is more of consuming these resources, skilled resources as a body kind of thing, where we used to work on huge project with 200, 300 resources working on at any point in time on any maintenance project and all of those things. So there was a huge gap, and that relationship eventually started with a producer consumer kind of relationship, and there was a big impetus in terms of building good infrastructure, large number of colleges, getting the whole talent out and all of things. That was the focus area. But if you look at how things are evolving over a period of time, and even the kind of projects that Indian IT industry is engaged with, mainly the North America customers and all of those things, the things have changed. Now, the efforts those are required for maintaining certain project has drastically came down because of the robotic process automation, a lot of advanced technologies where machines are taking over the man in terms of doing the mundane work and all of those things. So the efforts are drastically reducing, and there are high expectations from this talent pool to deliver, and there are projects which are outcome based. So if you are able to deliver it and show a tangible benefit, then only we will make the money, or else we are putting ourselves into a risk. So those kind of projects are coming. Again, the innovation around product processes is again a big topic that could be discussed. So now if you look at how these things are evolving, and the kind of gap that still is perceived, that there is the people who are coming out of academia are not absorbable directly. So most of this companies, including my company Persistent, they eventually train the resources for 3 months by investing into them, and again they are trained on some of this advanced technology. So that gap still exists. So that is one part where I think we should really focus on. How do we give a skill-based training to these people? And again, I'm not saying that there is a gap. There are a lot of efforts those are being taken up. The association is getting stronger day by day. It's not that it is what it was existing a couple of years back. The same situation is there. There is a good amount of improvisation that I'm seeing, and even I myself is associated with some of this academia relationship and all of those things. I can definitely say on that. The second thing which I talk about is R&D, right? We do talk quite a lot about R&D. Now there are R&D on two parts. Like, so there is a R&D being done on a core science, and I think the idea here is that the R&D, if it is into applied area, I think those are the areas where those knowledge artifacts can be picked up and those can be monetized by converting them into some tangible solution. And as Jasvir sir was also mentioning that to make some impact, and that is out. So that is again another big area. So if academia can focus on R&D, those are applied research kind of area, I think that gap can be bridged very effectively. And again, I think we need a close association with the industry representative. There are a lot of bodies on the industry side like NASSCOM, CIA. These are some of the bodies which are there. I think that relationship needs to be strengthened, and if we are able to get some of this academia spend some time with industry, and so also some of this industry spend some time with academia, I think this gap can definitely be mitigated. So this is a high level view that I just wanted to put forward.
Thank you very much, Purshottam ji. Vikram ji, same question to you. What exactly is going wrong according to you, and what exactly is stopping us back from an industry academia partnership in true sense, which would really come out with some kind of product or process innovation? Over to you, Vikram ji.
Yes, I think this is a very, very critical point. First of all, I would like to re-emphasize on what Dr. Jasvir said earlier. Is that
sorry to interrupt you, Vikram ji. Just before I forget, just one question I wanted to pose, so that probably you'll be able to answer it in your address now. Is it Jasvir ji also said that in India, probably this cultural thing that we don't look at wealth creation as a very I don't know, noble thing. But then, is it really money? Is it really the interests of industries to generate money is holding it back from tying hands with academia? I don't know. Over to you.
So, if you look at it, to have a venture in place and make it sustainable, it's always something to do with money. Because if it's financially not viable, then those companies or those MNCs, the larger industries, would not even bother to do what they're doing. So they can make money out of different ways, different products and different services. Eventually, if they don't make money and they don't focus on it, they would be out of business. So that's one thing, and that's why the wealth creation is very important. In many ways, I do agree with the fact that we have been very negative minded in terms of wealth creation. However, I would like to correct that by saying we all are secretly in love with wealth. You can correct me if my terms are wrongly. We are
no, they are absolutely apt.
I would love to make money. Wouldn't you? If you wouldn't, then you would be somewhere in the Himalayas. We are secretly in love with the fact that we want money, but we don't want somebody else to make that money. And that happens when we don't have the capability of making the money, and that's how we fall into some kind of a rut, and we fall into a situation where we are just envious of somebody else making that money. And that is why we become activists in many ways when we cannot do something. But there's nothing wrong in making money. If everybody makes money, our GDP goes up, our expendable incomes go up, and that's how the minimum wages go up. A whole lot of things happen. So we need to make money, all of us. Now that.
So are you really again pointing to what Dr. Jasvir said? Is it really again boiling down to culture? Because मुझे 10 रुपए मिलने के आनंद से दूसरे को 12 रुपए मिले, इसका दुख ज्यादा होता है. So is it really somewhere again we are boiling down to culture, and is it where really we have to find solutions?
I don't think it's a cultural effect. It might be a little bit when multinational companies come in, but as such, Indian economy is largely driven by the SMEs and the local market itself. So I don't think there is a cultural effect that comes. However, if you see, we have grown up into a middle class or a middle income group kind of a country. There's nothing wrong in that. However, that comes with a mindset. That comes with a mindset of employment. That comes with a mindset
That's
of
correct.
entitlement. That comes with a whole lot of things, And somehow the education and the academia has driven that aspect also over the last few decades. Now, I would like to understand, make it very clear that academia, probably, I look at it as two things. One is R&D, where you generate knowledge, right? Where you create new knowledge, or you create the applicability of knowledge, those kind of things. You have PhDs and you have research. The other aspect is the skills. So there are two things that academia delivers to people. One is the knowledge, and the other is the skills to do something. Now, in both cases, it's tremendously disconnected from what the industry wants, and hence those collaborations, they fall apart.
But then,
If I
Vikramji,
want,
sorry to interrupt you, but then whenever I see people especially from IT industry, or probably for that matter, any segment, this is something we have been hearing a lot, that in India, that the gap between fresh graduates and their employability index is very big. People are not really employable. Is it really the case only with India, or is it happening across the globe? I mean, do we say that people graduating from US or UK, they are far more better employable than in Indians? And if it is happening, why?
I do not have any statistics behind that, so I wouldn't be able to correctly answer that question. But as far as I understand, the fairly industrialized nations do not have such a significant issue as we have, because somehow down the line we have ended up
So
making
let's jump in. If
academia.
Purushottam ji, because this is
Yeah,
a
I can.
I mean, we did not go in a flow. If you have any proper point, just jump in. So Purushottam ji,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, I can quickly give my point of view. Yes, I think there is a gap there, which I understand. But you should look at, again, I just mentioned how industries has evolved, right? So earlier, I think IT industry was very different.
No, do you have any view on developed countries, students from developed countries have
Yes.
better? Okay.
Yeah, so yeah, because I think they are exposed to the environment where a lot of I mean, the foreign universities, if you look at the students, they are engaged into product engineering, the core research, the core activities which are being taken up by the foreign companies, right? The whole North American companies, they do take this help from not only the fresh graduate, but even from the faculties or the academia who are putting in there. On the contrary, if you look at the demand that we were having in India, is purely the common skills that people need to acquire, and then we used to get that kind of work. But as I mentioned, I think that culture is coming. It's not that gap is bridging now, and with a lot of this innovation hackathons coming in, even we are also imparting that kind of knowledge. So that gap is drastically getting reduced, and we are also getting the quality work of core engineering work, maintaining their products and all of those things. So this gap definitely is going to get bridged, and while it is still there, but I think we are moving in the right direction. That's my perspective.
But then my point, because you all are seniors, you have worked in industry for so many years. Jasvir ji, have you ever come across any situation wherein you have seen that industry has approached academia or any university saying that, hey, look, this is because whenever these kind of discussions happen, I have at least seen in my career of last more than a decade that it happens at a very high level, strategic level discussion that this should be done, that should be done. But when it comes to actual on-ground practice, universities talking to industry or industry talking to universities. As Purushottam ji said, that they have the universities or the students studying in universities abroad have exposure to industries. They have been interacting. So, Jasvir ji, do you feel that there is a need to bring in the change with respect to this syllabus and modus operandi that universities, Indian universities, are operating at?
Well, I certainly agree that there is need for a change. We can look at whether syllabus is the most important part of that change, so that we begin with syllabus, or there are other aspects which require more attention compared to syllabus. And one of the difference which is very stark when you look at the way studies happen in universities abroad versus universities here in India is that the number of courses and number of hours that Indian student puts up in the classroom versus what they put up in global places is far too high. So what we are ending up with is a pure classroom teaching and not a field exposure that a student comes up with once the degree is over. I mean, my own daughter is studying in a university in Canada, and she has only 4 classes in a week,
Mm,
and rest of the time
true.
is where you get assignments to do or you get other things to do, which gives you hands-on exposure to the challenges. Now this obviously can vary from subject to subject, and all
True.
those
True.
variations are
True.
there, but the point is that our education systems overemphasis on presence in class, one, and
Mm.
second, is an over emphasis on being in agreement with what you are being told. Uh, I mean, I find it
I got
very
the point.
rare.
What you're
I
saying.
find it very rare that a student is encouraged to challenge the professor.
Yeah, that's exactly. I think Purushottam ji and Vikram ji would also recall their days in college. Whatever professor is saying, you have to probably stick, and if you argue, then it's again. I think we are boiling somewhere back to culture. But anyways, I would like to take this entire discussion to a different level now, because we have been hearing a lot that India has the demographic dividend, and we would be the youngest populated country in the world, and we will need a skilled workforce to take the shape to shape the future of the country, and so on, and so many big talks. But then if you really see that formally trained workforce is not even 30% or somewhere 30%. So is it that innovations or I would say uh, yeah, innovations for that matter would only should come through this skilled workforce, which is only 30%, or is it time that we broaden up and think in a broader way that innovations can come from someone who's working as a labor in construction industry? So is it that we need an upside down change? What are your views, Purushottam ji?
Yeah, I think I do understand that there is a big gap there, but I think I'm a little opportunistic over here. And if you look at this COVID-19 situation, right, and I think the new norm was given to us, and somehow we are coping up that situation. So one thing is that there is a big digital divide, or whatever divide that you call. We have a lot of focus on the urban areas, tier 2, tier 3, or maybe lower cities are completely ignored, and there was a big push towards people coming to the urban area and trying to be part of the ecosystem by skilling themselves. And there was a lot of rural population which was completely ignored. There was again a barrier of language also. If I give a skill based resource training to a person in their local language, probably we could create that employability in the rural area also. So the reason why I'm saying optimistic, I just want to give one good case of Zoho, right? So Zoho is one of the multinational company, and if you look at including their CEO, they are able to handle the global project by having their employees in a rural area, which is a very good example of this. So I think we should look at it more opportunistically. And again, the whole reason of this gap is basically the whole focus on the urban area infrastructure kind of even and all of those things. So if we are able to balance that, probably we may not overcome the complete gap, but I think we'll be able to accommodate much more there. And again, this COVID-19 situation is one good example, which I would say even in my company with a employee strength of 10,000 plus, we have only around 1,000 odd people coming to the office.
Have you ever, sorry to cut you, Purshottam, but have you ever done such kind of research at your organization, that how many of your employees come from rural India or urban India, and what is the success rate, something like that?
Yeah, and I can, yeah, I don't have the exact figure, but I would definitely say that 40 to 50% of people are coming from tier 2, tier 3. And again, they come from their native places. They come to urban areas like Pune, Nagpur, and all of the city. They get graduated there and they kind of settle there as part of their career aspirations and all of this. You know, because of COVID, I would say 40% of employees are operating from their native places. There are certain difficulties and all of those things, but I'm happy to tell you that the productivity has almost remained the same. We are not seeing any dent in
Wow,
terms of, yeah. So I think
that's a
that's
big
the thing.
achievement.
And even our quarter on quarter results shows that we were able to deliver for last 2-3 quarter consistently when we hit this COVID scenario in Feb and March kind of situation.
That's
So
amazing. Probably that's the reason we are having discussion, that this new normal would probably continue. And if this is really happening, and if your work is not really getting impacted as your Q results are good, probably we'll have to think again. Vikramji, what is your view on this? Would like to tap you. Oh, we lost him again, I guess. Okay, great.
One thing is that see, innovation does not see socioeconomic status. So that question arises that innovation cannot be done by the worker on the construction site. In fact, in my past experiences, I've seen many of the construction site workers are very highly skilled and they are very brilliant at what they do, only because they're able to innovate some of their processes on site, or innovate the way they plan their day schedule, and they the whole thing. So going back to Dr. Jasvir's initial comment, innovation is not just product related; it's a process related also. It could be how you do things, those kind of things also. So that's one thing. Now we have been working in rural sector for many years now. In fact, we have also adopted a few villages around Pune. Now, what we are trying to do there, when people talk about the urban-rural disconnect, and the GDP is so low, and we'll always remain backward in our rural areas and so on. Is a different way of looking at things. If you consider a village as a business unit on its own, I'm again coming back to that, knowledge, converting knowledge into wealth transaction, if you like to say. So if the farmer does not provide you food, the world will die in a matter of days or months. If the farmer does not take care of the land, we will have widespread climate change effects. If the rural communities do not provide us our workforces, our factories, our construction sites, our infrastructure projects, they will all fall on their face. But that does not mean that they need to migrate and come to the cities and live in shanty towns. So that is one thing that we need to just remove from our minds. why do we expect the rural India to become like the urban India is one question. Why can't the rural India become a business capable India? This is what the question
Absolutely.
is.
Absolutely.
Now, I know so many indigenous rural people who have so much of local indigenous knowledge and skills. Now, there is one thing about the rural culture, the rural cuisine, then the way they know how seasons affect their agriculture, the way they know how forest products can be converted into jams and preserves. They know how to look at what is a herbal medicine and what's not, and there's a whole lot of knowledge that they have.
But then, as
That
sticking to the, I'm sorry, but sticking to the thread of this discussion today in INCON. So, how do we really translate this and bring in into academics and industry academia collaboration through incubation centers? Because I would like to take this question to Jasvir Singh ji, because we heard him saying that most of his career he has spent somewhere around the food and food related products. And so, Jaswant Singh ji, what is, because are we really dealing with these kind of problems? Are we really looking at these cases as opportunity?
So while uh, we may not see them as some of the big case studies being talked about or published in papers, but I do see a lot of these scenarios where some successful collaborations have happened, and luckily I have been part of
But
some of
from
them.
university, originating from academics?
Yes, which is
Okay.
an academics and industry collaboration. So, and some of those points that I think were really important, or which played an important role in ensuring success of those ventures, was that one was the transparency, that you set up that agreement with very clear cut legal agreements, which puts up clear cut boundaries for each other as well as rights of each other, so that there are no expectations which are hidden and which end up in getting disappointed with the results later on. When you put up everything upfront and in a legal contract manner, that helps both ways. I mean, although that may be a little tough thing to do, but that helps. The other thing is that we need to really respect that the primary goal for academic researchers is knowledge generation. And through these incubators, we are actually trying, I mean, when I say we, that means the industry is trying to gain a competitive edge with some part of that knowledge. So let's not be holier than thou kind of stakeholder saying that we will put sort of boundaries or bindings for that researcher to pursue the academic knowledge. And the same time, the researcher should not try to attempt the idea of wealth generation that the industry have as a goal. So
So true.
that's the other thing. The last and the most important point that I thought played a big role there was that uh, there are things that industry can do on its own because they have at least some sort of an R&D in-house. Some companies have big ones, some companies have small R&D setups in-house. So to have that clarity that, okay, this is what is something that we need to do in-house, and this is our long shot. And typically where I have seen these kind of collaborations being successful is where industry gives a long shot kind of projects to these kind of incubators, because they marry the interests of both stakeholders, because they also bring in that knowledge generation component to it, and
Wow.
it
Yeah.
also helps industry that we can put something there in the incubator and wait for those 5-6 months before this thing becomes a sort of next generation technology available to us.
True. True.
um,
True.
and this all I'm saying only in the context of basic research component of it. Whereas in terms of skill set generation, which is an equally important part of this ecosystem, I think there are enough now institutes which are building up, and they are actually building their curriculum as well in collaboration with industry, so that they can train the manpower which can be directly used by industry. And some of the
True.
industry associations like FICCI, CII, or maybe IMC are also playing that role in creating that collaborative platforms where industry and academia are coming together
Indeed.
uh,
Indeed.
to formalize this
Indeed.
arrangement and take it forward.
True. So that means you're indicating that there is a possibility and need of doing these kind of.
Absolutely.
This discussion is going on so well that I almost completely lost track of time. It is 1:16 p.m. and I have to stop at 1:30. That is the red line given to me. And two important aspects are yet to be discussed. So let me quickly take your attention towards that. A government is coming up these days with many schemes like Inspire scholarships and in hackathon. There are so many things that are going on. Do you really think that these kind of initiatives and scholarships would have a serious impact on industry academia collaborations? In what way? Open to all. Purushottam ji, Vikram ji, anyone who would like to comment?
Yeah, again, I think the scholarship and all of those things which are issued by Inspire, yes, it definitely helps certain segment of the population. It may not help everyone, because I think, and again, I just had been to Inspire site, and the way they engage the students right from their higher education till they become the graduate or postgraduate or PhD, I think they do handhold on the wider range. But again, I think the awareness is very important, I would say. And again, would it help the bigger population? I mean, the answer probably would be this thing. So, but it does help the small segment of the population. So that's my quick view.
Okay. Vikramji, as you rightly pointed out, what happens in India, what I've typically seen in academics, that researchers are reluctant to go for, I would say tough research questions, because of course there is lack of direct funding for research in terms of scholarships or research funding from government or industry. There is potential, but in sectors like biotechnology or food industry or now, for anything for that matter, but people are reluctant because there is no enough research funding. So, do you think this will really have a good impact if we pay a little more attention, government and industry, towards the research funding or etc.?
So, see, there are two things. One is research funding and its adequacy, which can obviously be bridged by the industry coming in if there is a gap. Um, the other
If
aspect
they
is
see their
the
profit, if they see their profit and money there in that research.
I'll just elaborate on that a little bit. Now, I've had a good experience working with one a university in Australia, University of South Wales, where I was briefly associated with one of their um, collaborative research centers. It's a CRC. So it's called a collaborative research center, and they've got different domains under it. So it could be carbon, it could be construction, it could be automation, IoT, and all those kind of things. So each of them has got a collaborative research center. Now, what these collaborative research centers do, and what I have recently now also seen at IIT Bombay, who has collaborated with the Australian University, Monash University, on the same lines, is really has got a fantastic outcome because it's impact oriented. Now, what they do there is they formulate the problem statements with the industry on the table, and that's how the collaboration starts. So let's not talk about a PhD student coming on board with some topic and then the professor guiding him, and then there is a PhD, and then there is a there's a whole bunch of papers coming out of the deal. So that's just funding wasted. That's non-impactful research, and see, there's nothing wrong in doing that, but we can't significantly keep on doing that. You've got to do the impactful research as well. So what happens in this case, in a CRC kind of environment, is industry comes to the university and treats it as a consultant. Now, not by giving them consultation
Great.
fee,
Yeah.
but by giving them research fund, because they want to take this research and commercialize it. They will obviously get it patented by the professors or the students who are working on it. They'll get the royalty. The university makes money out of it, and that's how the collaboration works. Now it's a win-win situation because the university benefits out of it, the students benefit out of it, the industry benefits out of it, but the biggest beneficiary is the society because they get that product in hand. And that's how we become more developed. The socioeconomic development happens because these products come to our households. At the end of the day, we are consuming these products. So that is where the win happens. And the government is only funding, like if you see the FIST or the Inspire programs that we have, the government's job is to create an ecosystem. And that's about it. We can't expect them to continuously give research
True.
funding and that results only in patents and papers. That cannot be correct. So when the ecosystem is set up by the government, the industry comes with the problem statement, works with the university, and delivers the product that the society needs. I think that's a fantastic model, and we've seen it emerging in India, and I think that
True.
will be the way
This
to do
input
it.
of yours, Vikramji, actually brings me to my last point of discussion and coming towards the last 8 minutes of this session. I'm sure you all must have got opportunity to go through the new education policy which is now proposed and which is going to have a big impact in time to come in India. So, do you really think that you saw some promising signs in this NEP that you think over the period of time this picture that we are discussing would improve? Any takes on that?
Well, I think
Uh, yeah.
it's definitely. I'll just briefly share my thoughts on that, and then I will end. Um, I think the policy is definitely a big leap forward. There's no doubt about it. But I will go back to my initial point in my opening statement. It will always be driven by that visionary leadership. So whoever is going to implement this policy at the university level, at the institutional level, uh, must ensure that visionary leadership to take it forward. Because that policy is good. I mean, there are a lot of good things in that policy, but it needs to be
Great.
framed.
Great.
It needs to be led.
Thank you very much, Vikramji. Purshottamji, your thoughts? Sir, you're on mute.
Sorry, thanks. Yeah. So yeah, there is a lot of buzz around NEP. I think it was recently, announced, and then we do understand that there is a big impetus to the academia industry collaboration. There is a big focus on startup culture, and again, whole R&D and innovation there is. So again, I would rather see it getting implemented. I think the vision has been set. Some part of it has been being studied by various universities and all of those things. So from industry standpoint, the implementation is going to be very key. So probably we will have to wait and watch and see how it is going to impact and what value really it is bringing to the table. So yeah, I think I would rather comment once probably we spend a good year or so. I think that's my perspective.
Okay, Jasvirji, any take on that?
Unfortunately, I really don't have much of an engagement with NEP so far. But broadly, what I see, some of the points that I was mentioning as flexibility in terms of choosing your streams and all that, those are good things that that have been brought in. But I think along with NEP, we also need investment so that this education becomes more and more accessible to the greater degrees of our population, and especially to those who are almost untouched by our education system so far. So that would be really important. But otherwise, focus on skill development, flexibilities, and also the role of private sector in education. All those are, I think, things which will play a good role going forward.
Yeah, thank you very much, Jasvir ji, Purshottam ji, and Vikram ji. Really amazing discussion that we had in last 1.5 hour. I just have 5 minutes left with me, but thank you very much for bringing in so many important points in this context. Vikram ji and Purshottam ji, and Jasvir, Dr. Jasvir, thank you very much for your participation. I don't know if I really have time in my hand. Dr. Pranima? Just 5 minutes. I'm really sorry for eating up almost everything of this session because the discussion was so engaging. I could not really really stop, but I could.
So with the permission, maybe Mr. Praveen Patil could guide. If he permits, we may have a question from the audience if he gives us a
Okay.
nod.
I'm sure because we must have.
Say that again, Purnima.
We have just 4 minutes away from this session.
Exactly.
So I think over to you, Dr. Pranima.
Yeah, since we don't have anything flashing in the chat box or the question from the attendees, maybe in the last couple of minutes, if we are supposed to complete a point.
So if I have the leverage, I would like to ask a question to Praveen ji. I'm sorry, this is not in the pattern of the session, but the discussion has been so engaging that we would like to understand your views because you have been leading this initiative from the front. And you have been interacting with a lot of industries, and Purshottam ji, Vikram ji, and Dr. Jasvir gave good inputs in this session. So what do you think? What is your personal take? What you have felt in last, while you are interacting with industry, what is stopping us back from this collaboration happening in true sense, where just the way Vikramji said, that industry is coming forward and looking at universities as consultants and getting their problems solved through academia and translating it into product or process or service in true sense. What is your view?
Right. So Gautam, I've had separate discussions with the people from the the government, from from the industry and the academia. And I want to share that everybody gave a very positive response towards an activity like this. That everybody was keen. Even the government is keen that industry academia should come together, and government wants to play a facilitator's role in that. Well, they don't want to be a regulator, but they want to be a facilitator. So is the industry. Industry wants, and obviously the kind of and the quality of research that we can produce as universities or as education institution will be far lesser in terms of cost than they doing research on their own, But I guess there was a platform missing, or there was probably a, like in the West, it's a very common thing. Somehow in India, this had not taken off, at least in the private universities. In the government universities or the public sector, public universities, still there was some kind of work being done on research front. But in private universities, there was hardly negligible kind of work being done. So we thought, let's make that as our theme for INDCON this year. Rahulji always keeps saying, our executive president, he keeps saying that, out there in the West, research happens in the university, and the development happens in the industry. Whereas here in our country, research and development, both in whatever form, in the current form, it happens in the industry and is not driven from the university, And so if we have to bring in that kind of research ecosystem, that DNA, that culture, we have to make a beginning by first getting everybody on the same platform and understanding the importance of putting or setting things in place from a perspective of making sure that we come out with meaningful research. And the whole idea of having so many people from the industry, and I think one voice which is being echoed continuously from the industry is that we are not here to do charity. We mean business, and if you want to do research, give me an outcome-based research, And so this is something which is rubbing off within our people also, and we're hearing this directly from the industry. So if we really want to make our research credible, if we really want to make our quality of and we want industry to come and support and our research, then it's very important that we as an organization or universities, I'm talking about private universities also, the quality of research and the quality of outcome that we are able to give or we should be giving to the industry has to be up to the mark, and it should mean business to the industry.
Absolutely. So I think you, along with all these visionary leaders like Vikramji, Purshottamji, and Dr. Jasvir, and the INDCON, probably you would pave the path in time to come, and we will see some. In true sense, the academia and industry collaboration and generating wealth out of these kind of collaborations. Thank you very much. My time is up. This is 1:30 p.m. sharp. I'm handing over charge to Dr. Pranay.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Bapat. Thank you, Mr. Praveen Patil. I should consider those to be the concluding remarks from your side. And thank you to all.
Well, I'm not yet doctor. I'm yet to complete my PhD, and I'll make sure that my it would be
I think that is
relevant one. Relevant one, and that produces some relevance to industry and academia at large.
Okay, Mr. Bapat, that should be an incentive for all of us. Okay, so Mr. Praveen Patil, should I consider that to be your concluding remarks?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you to all the dignitaries on the online dais. We had an interesting and a very extensive discussion on this topic. I wish you all a very nice and happy deliberation in the forthcoming sessions as well. Before formally closing the session, I would like to announce that our next session and the final session of INCON Conclave 2 will start sharp at 2:30 p.m. and the session theme will be best practices in research and development, India and other top 10 countries in R&D. So stay tuned and see you back at 2:30 p.m. sharp on this online mode. Thank you once again to all of you, to all the attendees for joining us. Take care, stay safe.
Thank you very much, Dr.
Thank you.
Pranay. Thank you, Jasvirji. Thank you, Vikramji. Thank you, Purshottamji.
Thank you
very much. Thanks for your time.